Ooh, let's turn that down. You can probably still hear that. All right, all right. Let's get our guests in here.
Oh no, it's got me
What
audio
up? What
only. Give
up?
me 1 sec, I'm setting up my mic.
Oh yeah, you're all good.
Oh, only, is that okay?
Oh yeah, you're good. All right. Well, there's three
There we
fourths.
go.
Where's Pickles?
You'll have to
Ah,
tell me if that
speaking, he
sounds
shall
okay.
appear. Speaking, he shall appear.
Now, how do I change it to... There we go.
All right, can you
Oh,
hear me?
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, Cobra, you're good.
There we go.
What?
How about that garage door back here?
What is up, my man?
Some sexy hinges there, buddy.
Let's see. Oh, it's got it on headphones or something, so for some reason I can't hear you.
Whoops.
Yep, for whatever reason I cannot hear you. Interesting.
You guys hear me?
Okay, well, I just may not be able to do a mic.
You good? Okay.
I just want to do a mic. Hopefully that sounds
Alrighty.
because I'm kind of
Yeah, I figured that out on my live streams. Got a brand new set of microphones. Every time I hook the mic up, no audio.
Yeah, I don't generally do stuff with multiple people, so I use the Lark M1 when I stream. This is upside down. There we go. I use this guy when I do my streams and stuff, and it works fantastic. But if you're on Android, you have to get this guy.
Yep.
You have to get this guy.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's his whole
But-
setup.
I went to this because it had its own charger case. Yep.
Mine's a very similar design. I can't recommend it enough. Fantastic.
Yeah, I
Welcome
did
in,
the
everybody.
the $3 ones first, and then I did a pair of Five Below ones, and they were great for like 2 months. Then the battery just dies on them.
Oh. See, this has been fantastic for me. I've had it for about a year now, probably, and I use it all the time. And everybody really likes the sound quality. They said it sounds great, and it also has the wind buffers. I just don't use them, but I have
Yeah.
my own buffer. So
I was gonna say you've got a built-in one, bro.
I've got my own buffer. I don't need another one. If I do
Here's
that,
the
that
next-
doesn't hear me at all.
Here's the next innovation for my channel.
Ooh, very nice. I've been looking at trying to get a different camera or something myself because I just
Weird.
use my phone.
We are going to be doing POV bowling.
Oh, okay. Heck yeah. Let me send out a couple of shares here if that's okay with you guys.
Share
Oh,
on.
you know that's against the rules, my man. Come on.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'm definitely not generally a rule breaker, but there's always some that can be bent a little, right? So
Hey, rules were made to be broken.
Bend away, sir. Bend away.
whatever we can do here. In the meantime, I am listening. I'm just kind of
Oh well, Squirt over here thinks she's the star of the show, so
my dogs are chilling down here on the floor.
nope. She's always got to be like right underneath your nose, which is surprising. She hasn't made more of an appearance on the show before.
Let's see.
Everybody
Sorry.
have a good week.
Yeah, this is the first week where I'm down to one bowling night a week, and I don't know what I'm going to do with myself.
There we go. Lots of shares. Oh, mustache.
I don't know. I've been bowling every day. for the past-
I've got this
30
one hair
days.
that's like determined to curl itself back into my mouth. I've been fighting it for like a week now.
All right, so we've got some people in here now, so let's do what we usually do up front. We're going to give the Bearded Wonder the floor. Introduce yourself, how long you've been bowling, and all that other good jazz.
I am the Bearded Wonder, and there we go. Sorry, I'm plugging in my phone and everything. There we go. Wow, and I look like death right now. My quality is terrible in here. I've been bowling for about 10 years, roughly. I never really started taking it seriously until about 2019. And that's when I bought my very first ball. Got it drilled and gripped and everything to fit me. That's something that I highly recommend for new bowlers is to, as the very first thing, get a new ball. It doesn't matter if you're trying to curve or not, get a ball that it fits you. Which I'll come back to that. I really first started taking it seriously in about 2019. A guy by the name of Aaron Hargis, backward tap bowling on here. He was been my mentor. He took me under his wing whenever I very first started, and he always accepted me, even though I was doing the up the side, cranking on it. I mean, I was doing, because I'm still a 2-finger bowler. I've never really changed from that. I've just kind of adapted and tried to learn how to do it more traditionally, more proper. So over the last few years, I've really progressed at that. But he took me under his wing and really taught me to quit getting up the side and how to quit throwing it out there. And, because he always told me, throw a better shot, just throw it better, right? That was always his thing, or, take some hand out of the ball. But I didn't know what those things
What that meant?
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
I didn't have a clue what that meant back then. It took me a long time to really understand what that meant, but until I didn't realize how much was actually in bowling. Like Victor Cortez says, it's a lot like golf, except the fact that you can't see the bunkers, you can't see the ponds, you can't see these things, and
Yeah, you can't see the slope of the green.
Exactly, understanding that kind of thing was probably the hardest part. Other than just, hey, this ball looks cool, I'm gonna get this, because my very first ball was a Brunswick Inferno Blue Flame, the limited edition one.
Yeah.
And it was a great ball for me. It really was. But man, with the amount of hand that I had in there, my rev rate was like over 500. It was insane. It was just overkill, and I couldn't. I mean, if I wasn't throwing it in the gutter, which I still occasionally do. It was just ripping off the spot and missing left by a mile. I was bending the whole lane all the time.
Which is a great asset to have in the bag when it presents itself. But
it's good to have when you need it, right?
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. Over the last, I'd say, 4 years probably is when I really started to progress. Fast forward to now, my wife who passed, Kelly, we've been doing all the striking for Kelly videos for her. She was my doubles partner, and, we've got 5 tournament wins together, doubles, different doubles tournaments, but we've got five wins together. And, it took me, I probably spent 7 years just trying to talk her into picking up a ball and learning how to bowl, and lo and behold, she progressed substantially faster than me, and in a lot of ways, she was a much better bowler than me. But she gave me a lot of cause to want to do better. Now with the help of some of my friends, Patrick Roper being probably my biggest one. As far as helping me get where I am, now I'm on staff with Swag, and now I'm on staff with Viz. He's actually my supervisor at Viz Sportwear. So, and I always tell him how much I appreciate that, because without him, I wouldn't be where I am today. Ryan Jackson is also a very good friend of mine. These guys saw my potential, and they really helped push me to do better and to actually focus on my game and but not overthink it.
But yeah,
So
that,
my biggest supporters by far.
that was one of the things that completely blew the doors off of me, because me and you first started interacting on your lives, and we were just sitting there BSing, and I had no clue what was going on in your personal life, and it was just like me and you just sitting at basically the equivalent of sitting at a bar, even though you're bowling and I'm watching it on TV, just going back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
It just floored me, the kind of person that you were, that had all that going on and nobody could tell.
Yeah, and that's something that everyone's different in their own right. Like, and we all have our own history and that kind of thing. And I've always been the strong one for everybody. I'm very much an empath, and I like to take more on myself. And I always say that I feel the weight of the world, and I generally do. I'm very in tune with my emotions and others' emotions and how the world feels and stuff like that. And so it allows me to be a little bit calmer, so to speak. But I don't know. I just kind of adapt to it, and I'm able to handle things in a different way than most do, you know. And so I don't allow things to get to me too much. Sometimes it's inevitable that it's going to hit you. You know, my problem right now is I get hit with things just randomly out of nowhere for no reason. I'll have a flashback, and the other night at work, out of nowhere for no reason. I'll have a flashback, and the other night at work, I was, you know, just going through my routine, and it was almost like a hallucination, like I was back at the hospital. Just, you know, I was just right there again. And that was really hard. That's the hardest thing for me right now. It's almost like a PTSD kind of thing where it just hits me out of nowhere. I'll be going strong, feeling good, and I feel like I'm better, you know, and kind of moving forward. Hey, what's up, Sean? And I, you know, that kind of thing will hit me out of nowhere, and that's what makes it hard. You know, that's the hardest thing for me, because I was by her side the entire time. So I was there for all of the ups and downs, and it made it a lot easier when her time came to be able to accept it easier. And I think in a lot of ways, because it wasn't something sudden, like, say, a car accident or a heart attack, you know, something like that is a lot harder to cope with, because there is no preparing.
Yeah, there's no way.
There's nothing like that. But, you know, going through that struggle, that process, leading up to that, it allowed me to be more ready for that kind of thing. Sorry, you heard my phone. That's my text message. I did mute it.
I was like, "Where's the tool man? Where's the tool man?"
Time.
That's my mother. Let me mute that real quick. There we go. Okay.
PTSD from our 90s. No.
Yeah.
I was just saying, and then when you get a voicemail, it's
Well, my Facebook message is actually Cleveland from Family Guy, so it's.
What's up, Big Josh?
I'm very much a big dork, and I contribute a lot of that to how I choose to live my life. I tend to just try to stay very positive, and I choose to live my life. I tend to just try to stay very positive and optimistic. I try to see the positive things, you know, in life, because there's already so many negative things throughout life as it is, that we don't need another negative person. You know, there's always the sun's going to shine again. You know, and it's just trying to find the positive side of things, even at the darkest point. There's always a positive somewhere in there. Sometimes you just really got to look for it to find it, and that's something that I take very seriously, is trying to not be the old grump. Like, when my time comes, I don't want to be the guy that people remember as the get off my lawn guy.
I was gonna say, you don't want to be the get off my. You don't want to be Clint Eastwood, get off my lawn.
You know, one day I want to be a cool grandpa. You know, I want to be the people. I want to be the people. I want to be the person that people are drawn to just because I put off a good vibe. You know, and that's something I incorporate into my channel as well. When I'm doing my lives and stuff like that, because I'm not the greatest bowler. I would say I'm pretty good. I have my really good nights, and I have my really bad nights. Consistency is my biggest failure. You know, but
and that's
go ahead.
And that's the other thing too. Like, your journey to staffer is one of the most interesting and awesome stories, because it was that Joe Everyman, the hard worker that got a chance and took every bit of the opportunity to get where they got.
Yeah, I agree.
Explain your journey on that. How did that all come together?
Really, it's funny, because once again, Patrick Roper is the one who brought me in. But what's funny about that is a guy named, if I hadn't tried to think, if I hadn't tried to think of it, I could have told you his name off the top of my head, but now I forgot. But there was another guy that actually reached out to me about a year prior to Patrick. And I was just doing my streams, and it, you know, just bowling. I mean, I was using a little bit of everything. Pretty much everything I had was a used bowling ball that I picked up on Facebook. It was something that I had. I pride myself on my research, so knowing all the ways that I find what I think will be good for me. But this is prior to my knowledge, like as my knowledge progressed. So when I was looking for a certain shape in a bowling ball or something like that, I would just watch a lot of reviews of, like, let's say the Venom Shock, right? It's one of the most notorious balls next to the Phase 2. Everybody knows what that ball is and what it's capable of, and of course EJ makes that thing shine, right? So I would there and use them for example, and they would have different styles and whatnot, and I would just kind of watch the ball's capabilities and how they threw it and whatnot, and then kind of see if I thought that that ball would work for me, and then I could just kind of explain it to my PSO. Fast forward a couple of years, I've learned, what layouts are and how they affect ball motion and surfacing and this kind of thing. And I'm starting to progress, but I'm still using a lot of used equipment and stuff, and I'm just, but my game has gotten substantially better. This other Patrick just randomly pops across my screen one day, and he's like, "Hey, you said your name's Patrick." He's like, "My name's Patrick too," and we just kind of hit it off, and we started talking and stuff. And he goes, "Have you ever thought about really trying to push yourself?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean push myself?" And he says, "Well, do you do any kind of tournaments?" I said, "Well, I do some tournaments here and there." And he goes, "No, I'm talking bigger." He goes, "You really want to go big in your life?" And I'm like, going big that's like the one thing that I want to do is I want to be the best me that I can be. And he's like, "Well, I've got an opportunity for you." He's like, "I'm going to send you some information, read over it, let me know what you think. And then if you want to try and progress forward, then, get back with me." And he'd sent me some information with at the time was California Bowling. And so I read it over, and I'm like, I'd like, this sounds pretty cool. And I'm like, but I'm not good enough. He was like, "It's not about being good enough. It's about the way that you present yourself and what you bring to the table."
Right.
And,
Your character.
Exactly, and I jumped in, and they gave me the opportunity. Now, the times were different than they are now. The getting on the staff process is much different now that it's swag bowling specifically. But back then, it was more, can you advertise?
Yeah.
Right. So it was a lot of the advertising, and if you could present it right. But of course, they wanted somebody with some skill and some background and that kind of thing, some tournament wins. You still needed to have a bowling resume, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Be able to show what you are capable of. And that's going to be the same with any company. It doesn't matter what company it is that you're trying to get on. They're going to have requirements based on a bowling resume. They want to know honor scores. They want to know tournament wins. They want to know your league, how many years you've been bowling. They want to know these things. And you have to be able to provide proof of that. And so they gave me the opportunity, and I've been with them ever since. So I'm going on my third year now, and I'm a T1 staffer, so I am on the top level. Just with the exception of the recent things, because I do a lot of social media stuff. I can do more legitimate reviews like the hype bowling, that kind of thing. So I do have a lot of stuff that I haven't been able to do this year with all of the recent things. But I will be doing more in-depth reviews and ball motion videos, etc., stuff like that. So it's more than just, hey, watch me throw this ball. It's like,
Right.
This is what I think, this is what I see, this is what I feel, this is what, my expectations are, etc., and that kind of thing. But the swag family, I know, isn't necessarily for everybody, but it is absolutely fantastic. I love the gear. It fits my game extremely well. And the family, we call ourselves a family, and it definitely is. The amount of support that I get through the swag family is unmatchable. Just seeing me through this process, the support that I've been given, has been fantastic. And we have guys, that average 130. We've got guys that average 230. So we've got a little bit of everything. But the good thing about it is that you can see how our products can work for anybody and everybody, regardless of what your skill level is, whether you're a scratch bowler and you're bowling on sports patterns every week, and that's the only pattern you ball on, or right? Or if you're just a typical house bowler, So our products can work well with anybody and everybody, and that's something that makes it really usable. And I like that.
I have a T-shirt, Cobra, that says that exact same thing. It says "Believe to achieve."
And see,
sure.
that's me. I like that. I like that a lot because it's. I'm a firm believer that you have to do everything with confidence. The worst they can do is tell you no. I mean, you can go through life and you can be successful because you're confident, and you can fail because you're confident. But failure is ultimately going to come with it along the way as well. But the worst they can do is tell you no, and that was kind of why I wanted to at least try to be on with Swag, was because the worst they're going to do is tell me no. So there was no sense in not trying, and so that's how I live my life. I've been promoted twice in the 3 years that I've been at work. Like, my goal is to be management material in 5 years. And every year I've been getting promoted. So I'm working very well towards that.
Great.
And that's just mainly because of the confidence. It's not even just the work ethic. It's just that I do everything with confidence, and I know what I can bring to the table. And, I really push myself, and if I get told no, then I get told no, so be it. But that's okay. There's always next year.
Well,
I was to say,
add on that.
there's always a path through every no to get to a yes. Just because you hit a no just doesn't mean you're not on the right path. That just means there's something to overcome, but you're on the path.
And it's just like bowling. Your first ball is not going to be a strike. You're gonna throw some gutters. You're gonna throw some crappy splits before you finally figure out where the pocket is. So
Exactly, and that's something I tell people too. It's not the ball that makes the bowler; it's the bowler that makes the ball.
absolutely.
So, brand loyalty is up for
Steven,
debate.
that's half the battle, bud. Just network, and
Yeah,
network,
and that's what I tell people, specifically the one that's right there.
Okay.
Brand loyalty is, unless you are staffed, throw what you match up with. It does not matter.
Yeah. And then people ask me,
Okay,
hey,
so-
what ball would be good? Or I ask them, what kind of ball are you looking for? They said, one that strikes. Well, they can all strike. You can
That's
strike
all
with
of them.
a fair ball. You can strike with a
Okay,
house ball.
so-
So, I'm like, need a little
So,
more
like-
information.
Oh, when
So-
our lane machine broke at the house that just closed, I'd be at the end of game one throwing a fab house ball because that's what I could get to the pocket.
Yeah. And see, I bowl on a very high friction surface.
I like track too.
Sorry.
I was talking to Big Josh.
I bowl
Big
on a
Josh
very
down
high-
there.
Where's he at? Oh.
Down in the comments.
Uh-huh. Match at best with the track. And that's, and like me personally, I've never matched up with Storm products. I'm not saying that they're bad by any means. I mean, they wouldn't be
Me neither.
what they are today, but for me, in my personal game, they're too aggressive. They're
Brunswick.
far too strong for me.
Brunswick is mine. Like, I love the brands, but the Keynote brand I don't match up with.
Well, see, there you go. And see, for me, I need with a higher rev rate, and I'm more of a mid-speed bowler. I find that I match up with the swag stuff extremely well because a lot of them, they are a little smoother on the back end. But now that we have our new stuff, they're much stronger down lane than they've ever been. Like, they're night and day compared to some of the past, right?
Speaking of which, I will give a free plug real quick because I was doing some looking around because everybody's a ball shopper 24/7. Bowler's Mart has restocked 15-pound dragons. Just an FYI.
And see, that's one I don't have yet, but the only reason why is because I bowl on a high friction surface. If I get something that strong, I'm just going to blow the cover off of it. We bowl on 18 mils at 38 feet. By game 3, I'm in my weakest possible ball. Sometimes I'm in my Tempest. My Tempest is basically a spare ball. It's a reactive resin. It's a 1000 polish. It's 262.019. That thing's not
Oh
mid.
wow!
Like, it's very, very, very little hook. And I can hook the entire lane with that thing if I really want to. Even having learned how to flatten out as much as I have, I've learned to get my rev rate much lower now. It's probably the lowest it's ever been. I'm right around 400 now on average. What's up, Brandon? That's B-Tip. He's another strike.
Butch, you just joined. What's going on? Last week's guest.
I'll be hooking the lane with that ball. There's been many, many times I've been using that ball as my strike ball. It's just that low volume. So if I was to get like the Dragon, for example, or the Judge, it would just be beyond overkill for the conditions that I bowl on. I don't bowl on a condition enough that's got a high enough volume to require something like that. So that's having, that learning process. I would love to have a Dragon, and I would really like to have a Judge. Really want the Judge. I'm not going to lie. It was one of the very first balls that I looked at whenever we knew kind of what was coming down the line. Started really looking into it, but I just can't justify it with the conditions that I bowl on and the rarity that I do tournaments, just because of my work and the 2 kids and stuff like that. So it's one of those where it's like,
that's kind of where I was at with the Judge too. Like, I want one really bad, but it's so big and it's so strong. Literally, the only thing I would do with a Judge if I got it was short pin it.
Yeah. See, I had thought about something like that, and I do have the Fusion, and I put a short pin on that. I have not even thrown it yet. I don't even have my grips in it yet. But I do have my Fusion as a short pin. I put a 2x40 on it because I find it to be, at least spec-wise, very similar to the old Exodus iron. And I have a 6-inch pin on that, so I went the exact opposite because it was 6x40. And even on the higher friction surface, with it being a 2-piece particle solid, it's able to be in play. But the problem is that I have so many longer pins because of the conditions that I bowl on here. When I do tournaments somewhere else, I don't have anything that fits something for higher volumes or for a longer pattern. So I went ahead and laid this one out a little bit different, and that's how I'm going to review it, as that way, so I can kind of see what a shorter pin would do for me, because I find myself in a high flaring position a lot of the time, but a smoother VAL, so that they don't just blow the cover off down lane. So I
right, so they don't get sideways and make a dead left turn.
Exactly, and see, that's my thing. I like a lot of flare. That's nothing new for me, and most 2-finger bowlers. I think that's pretty normal, because you're going to get a lot of flare anyway. I'll take that 2-inch pin, and I guarantee you, I'm still going to have a 4-inch flare. I'm going to have a 4-inch flare anyway. But a no flare or a very, very low flare thing is something that's not usually in my bag. I don't even have I have a urethane, but it's never been drilled. I've had it in my bag. It was one of the first balls I got when I got on staff. It's still sitting on my shelf undrilled because I don't use them. I've always learned to adapt other ways and try to learn to make what I have work. But that's a lot of having used stuff all these years. I had to learn to use what I had.
Now, you said you got a thane that you haven't drilled. Is it a big bro thane or is it a buffalo?
No, it's actually, I have the Iron Diamond.
Okay.
And so it's 257-040, so it's a little bit stronger, but a little bit later. So it's kind of the opposite of the spectrum, whereas most urethanes that are going to read earlier and be smoother down lane, this one's meant to go a little further and still be smooth down lane, but it has a little bit higher flare potential. This doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use it. Of course, that's all subjective based on surface and layout, right? But so for me, go ahead.
I like long and quick snap. That's what I like.
And see, I'm naturally like a bend it kind of guy, so
I bend a lot too.
If anybody
I like that quick snap.
Like, I'm covering boards, man. Like, straighter and later is not my forte. It's never been a very strong point for me, but it's also something that I really highly need to start practicing more.
What I'm working on right now.
Yeah, like going down to 5, can't do it. I can't do it because I naturally open my body because of the way that I bowl is such an odd 3-step approach. It's very weird, and I tend to open my body a lot at the foul line because of the way that my swing is and whatnot. There's a lot of things involved with that. So I naturally have at least some bend to it. So the further right that I get, I'm just that much more likely to put it in the gutter. So that's why a lot of the time you'll see me, I'll start on the 20 and I'll just start moving left, but I'll keep the same break point.
Yeah.
So I'll still
Yeah.
be throwing bananas down lane. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And as a
Brian
lefty, that's exactly
Yeah.
why I start square, start straight, burn my spot down lane, and then progress right to throw to that spot.
Exactly.
But Brian can vouch for me. I'm a far left player. I get told to move right all the time. I've been trying to progress to play a lot more straight, but
I'm in that same category.
Well, I mean, for you guys on the right-hand side, it's a little different because you got 3 or 4 guys burning that spot down lane. So it's easier to start farther left earlier and
Yeah.
throw to the burn spot. Me, I'm usually the only one, or there's one other guy that's playing in a separate zip code because he doesn't have my hand in my speed. So I've got to establish my own burn point and then progress right to
Yeah.
throw to that burn point.
And see, what I tend to do is when other guys start making that steps left, or they'll move an entire zone left, because the key that Aaron taught me, and it took me a long time to actually pick up on what he was doing, because he would just do it, and sometimes he wouldn't even tell me what he was doing. And then he would just say, hey, I want you to see if you can figure out what change that I just made. And he would be inside of my line. So that he had the oil, because I'm overhooking and I'm going 3-6-10, 3-6-10, 3-6-10, 6-10. You know, and I'm going, I don't understand why I'm coming in. It's just coming in too high every time. Well, he moved left, so he's still in the oil, and I'm still in the, hitting that dry line.
Yeah.
I'm still hitting that same spot over and over. My
Thank you, Bad.
consistency is good, but I couldn't figure out what it was. So he'll make that big jump to the left and get inside of me, and that's where you can tell the difference between a higher skill bowler and a lower skill bowler is they'll pick up on that transition. Whereas a lower skill bowler doesn't necessarily understand that, and they won't always pick up on it. Where I do mine differently is once I start to feel like I need to make a bigger jump to the left, I actually go down ball and go right. So I do the exact opposite because I know I'm still going to have oil to the right because nobody's been over there, including myself. So I know I'm still going to have some hold, but I'm also going to have the friction that I'm going to need for a weaker ball to pick up down lane. So it's a very weird thought process to do it that way, and a lot of people don't understand it. It's okay. I get it. I do things weird. That's just what I do. I am my own person.
And that's one of my things that I always do when I'm teaching somebody that I haven't taught much previously in the past is I'll let them get to the point where we've transitioned to lane. And then I'll go, okay, what's your move? And they'll go make their move, and 9 times out of 10, it is move right, get it to the gutter faster, and they can't figure out why it's overhooking.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, explain, and I'll break it down. I'll be like, explain your logic on that move. And they'll explain it to me, and I'll be like, I understand that's the way the optics look is that you just need to go that way because it's going to take it longer to get to the gutter, but you're dropping it right in the friction. The move is actually to move left, throw it through the middle to that spot, and then it'll tame it down.
Exactly. And the only reason I do it the way that I do it is just because I do have weak enough stuff that I can go that way if I need to. But you can always put a little bit of loft on it as well if you need to. And that's not always my move. A lot of the time I will make a 10 board jump to the left. I'll move way left. And then I can just kind of slow wheel it, right? I've got plenty of hand. My equipment is plenty strong enough. If I need to, I don't even have to give it more hand. A lot of my stuff. I use my Higgs Neo is a fairly older piece by Lord. That's my go-to ball. Absolutely love that ball. I take it everywhere. It never leaves my bag, and I've been able to play on short patterns, long patterns, sport patterns. I can play it anywhere, anytime, just by changing hand position, flattening out, give it a little more push, or slow it down a little bit. But what's funny is it's the one ball that I don't have a one board with. That out of everything that I have, it's the only ball that I don't have a recorded one ball with. If you look way back through my stuff, I've got a one board with every ball that I own. So I like to have stuff that I know I can get back with. So polish for me really isn't the way, which is something a lot of people don't understand. When you're a 2-finger bowler, a lot of guys go shiny. I don't. I actually surface down and read earlier to get that smoother down lane reaction, but with the amount
Which is what me and Brian started talking about when he was talking about how he likes to bowl. Because you do the same thing. you'll go to a more aggressive cover to try to smooth out the lane.
And it'll still pick up, and that's knowing to trust yourself and trust your equipment. Until you really learn your own equipment and you know what it's capable of and what it can do. That's one of those things. Sometimes you just have to go out there and just play with it. Not even just practice, but just kind of go see what it can and can't do. It's like I've got a video where I threw like my tracker. It's a very high shine, very polished. It's very clean. It's probably the cleanest ball. One of the cleanest balls that Swag has ever released. It's very clean. And for me, naturally, it wants to go long, but it's so clean, right? So just out of curiosity, I was on like the 35. I mean, I was probably standing on the 40, and my lay down's like the 35, 33, and I'm just covering the lane. Yeah, it slid off. It slid. Covering the lane. Yeah, it slid off. It slid off. I was shooting for like a 2-board, 1-board kind of thing. Sorry, this chair is hard as a rock, man. And it slid off into the gutter. I pick up the Higgs Neo, do the exact same shot. Perfect.
Well, and that's
knowing my equipment.
And that's the other thing about, especially me being left-handed, most people don't see a left-hander move, at all.
Yeah.
They just stand in the same spot, throw the same shot, ball change if they need to. I was bowling a random doubles, somebody I'd never even met before in my life. And the ball just started just taking off, going sideways, going right. He's like, "What are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to move 15 boards right, and this is going to hurt a little bit."
Sorry, my dog's down here messing with me.
He's like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm zone changing 2 zones. I'm doing this with the hand, and I'm sending it as far left as humanly possible."
And see, that was one thing that Kelly was able to do is that a lot of backup bowlers can't do is she can move deeper. She was probably the most consistent bowler that I know next to Aaron. Aaron is like I said, he's my mentor. He's got 38 300s. I think might even be 40 now. Number 40. He's got 40 because I posted a video not that long ago. He dropped a 300 at the tournament. We took second in team. Probably one of the most consistent bowlers I know. And then would be Kelly, because she can hit that same line every time, and that's not my strong point at all. But she learned when to adjust and whatnot, and she could actually go right and really bend the lane if she wanted to. She was more than able to. She just didn't do it very often. But the problem that she faced was a lot of the equipment that she had. She had it laid out to be a certain way, and then once you get right, it would just die out. So she would open the angle. She knows what kind of angle she wants. She knows what break point she wants and lay down, etc. And then she would hit that point, and it would just die out, and it would come in behind the head pin. So that was
It'd come back and hit like a pillow.
Yeah, and a lot of the time it would just burn up, and then it would make it back, but it would just be back too late, and it just couldn't make that shape back right. So that was something that we had been working on. I still have a couple of balls that are in the box for her that we were going to get drilled up and try some different things. And so now I'm not sure what I'm going to do with those, to be honest with you, because I've got a Shield hybrid that I earned through my staffing. I earned that as a reward, and so I picked that up for her to give her a different option in her bag. Oh, sorry. What'd I do? There we go.
Hey, there we go.
Sorry, it went blurry, so I was trying to straighten out I was trying to clean it up. So we've got that, and we've got like I said, I've got at least 3, I think, in my closet right now that were for her. So I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with that. But she knew the game. It was just because of being a backup bowler, it presented its own challenges, right? So it's like being a two-hander for a lot of people, being more forward is actually more natural. But being able to control that rev rate and not come up the side is actually the harder part, because you can be more behind the ball as a two-hander than than most traditional 3-finger, 1-hand guys are going to be able to do. You can be up the back of the ball much easier. So with the hand position changes.
Yeah, that's the thing I've experienced coaching two-handed people. They're either strong suit is dead up the back, almost completely forward roll,
Right up the
or
side.
completely sideways.
Yep, right up the side.
The
is most
hardest
common.
thing for them to get is the diagonal roll, where it's a
Yeah,
little
that-
mix of forward and a little mix of side to side. They're either really good at one or the other. And it takes
Exactly.
forever to get them to get that right hand release to get the diagonal roll, which is the ideal ball motion.
And the one thing that I always try to reinforce to people when they're learning with two hands is, if you're watching some of the pros, they're keeping that elbow tucked.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guys with two hands. Let me move this back. You'll see guys that are learning and they're coming out here, right? So you got to keep it back. You're bringing it back and you're getting all of your power from here, and you got to cock that elbow back, and that's where you're
Right.
generating your power from. And then
Like
you're
one of my-
generating motion from
One
your
of my
hand.
things when I teach two-handers is literally I want the ball in the armpit.
Yes, exactly. You want it up here, yeah, and you can bend that elbow back, and you're generating all of your power from back here, and then
Exactly.
your rotation and everything comes from your hand position at the release, right? So, because if you're right-handed, your left hand is just a guide. It's essentially, especially if you're not using your thumb, you're just another two-finger bowler like I am. You're just got another hand on it as a guide, right?
Right.
And then, of course, your position is going to change based on that. So, trying to teach everybody to keep that elbow tucked more is probably the hardest part, because you're going to have to bend at the waist a lot more. So it's going to change your overall position, and that's where they start to struggle, is because they feel like everything's just weird. It's hard to get that feel for it, right? So,
Well, and that's the other thing too, is the hardest thing to get people's mind wrapped around is, especially when you're trying to hook the whole lane and you're trying to project the ball right. It is easier to project the ball, in your guys' case, is right, with your arm still tucked close to your body and letting it project that way. Most of them want to swing it way out and come way around it to try to get it to do it.
yeah, and I still...
I turn my wrist.
Yeah, see,
I
on
turn
my
my
follow
wrist.
through, I still my arm comes up and out to the right. But see, what something a lot of people don't realize is, they say, man, you still go up the side a lot. And I'm like, well, here's another thing you got to think about. Let me back this up. I'll show you something. Here's something. You have to work with what your body, this is what I tell people. You have to work with what your body's willing to give you, right? Well, you may not be as flexible as I am in this manner or that manner. Maybe you can't get your hand around the ball the way that I can. Maybe I have really long fingers. I don't know. But I do know this. Like, if I move this arm up here, see how I can do that? That's my right arm. That's my bowling arm. That's as high as that arm will go. I blew that shoulder out years ago, and that's as high as that arm will go. So when it comes to my backswing and stuff it's already tight right here.
Yeah.
But, so I only have a very limited range of motion with that right
Me too.
arm. So that's something you'll also have to keep in mind, is what your body can and can't do. So when it comes to the traditional form and stuff like that, you have to remember that just because it's the proper way doesn't make it the right way.
Right.
You still have to find your way, right?
Believe me, I don't ever I don't ever straighten my arm in my backswing. My elbow is constantly bent, because for the longest time, everybody's like, no, you got to get out and get up here. And that's fine. When I do that, I can never cup my hand back down to get underneath the ball.
And see, that may just be your wrist motion. You may not have the range of motion in your wrist. And see, for me, I posted a video.
So
on
it's
it.
here and it stays.
See, I posted a video.
So
on
it's
it.
here and it stays there, and my hand stays under the ball the entire time until I yo-yo it.
And see, I learned how to straighten out my elbow, because I wanted to get my hand out of the ball and be a little more forward. So I had to learn how to get that wrist to come up and still keep it on my hand. So my hand is still at the top of my swing. My hand is still like this, and I'm still cupping the ball.
Yeah.
But my fingers are now supporting it, and that way, because at the bottom of the swing, what's going to happen is, when you get to the bottom of the swing, you're naturally going to be more up the side of the ball, because your hand's going to want to try and twist at the bottom of the swing, and you're not going to be able to get that time right where you can be able to get flatter at the bottom. And at least for me, that's just for me. I'm not saying that
Right.
that's the case for you or anyone else, but for me, that was the case. So I had to learn to straighten out my elbow more because to help my timing as well. But it was mainly from my hand position so that I could learn to adjust it better and generate a little bit more power.
And with a bent elbowed backswing, my backswing's not nearly as high as everybody else's. So my push away, everybody says start your push away at the beginning of your first step. My push away starts at step 3 because I have a short backswing.
So you take really short steps, right?
I take one short step, the crossover, and then as I'm laying down my crossover and picking up my back foot, that's when my backswing starts. That's when my push away and backswing start.
So you do 4 steps then, correct? You do 5. Oh, see, I do 3. So my steps, my timing is extremely important, and that's where my consistency fails. Because if I get one step a slightly different size than what it should be, my entire approach speed gets off, and I'll be ahead of it, and I'll get my swing too high, and then I'll pull my shot. It took me a long time to
And that's
realize
what I've
why
learned
I
this
pull
year is when
shot.
my timing's messed up and I'm pulling shots, my push away starting too early and my hands getting ahead of my body.
And I actually watched a video that Chris Barnes had done, and this is from like the 90s. Like, we're going way back. And it's literally like an introduction to a 4-step approach. And then, and he basically just says, take your step and then boom. It's, on that first step, your second step, boom. So you're going to hold it through the first step, and then your second step is when you're going to drop that that ball down into the swing.
What up, Victor?
Oh, the man. We got to get him on here one of these days. We got to get him on here. That man.
Yeah.
I have been following him since, I don't even know how many years I've been following him now. This guy, Victor, is the man when it comes to bowling knowledge. See, I always tell people I have knowledge, but I don't have the ability. This guy has both. He's a force to be reckoned with. Yeah, I love
Victor
his
has
stuff.
forgotten more about bowling than some will ever know.
I agree. Victor has been a big supporter of mine, and just as I support him, and I find his channel to be extremely knowledgeable and very helpful. A lot of like lane patterns and stuff. I actually learned how to read a lane or a pattern sheet through his channel and stuff because people were trying to explain it to me, but I just couldn't pick it up in the way that they were putting it down. So a lot of stuff I learned through him, because he does a lot of breakdowns and stuff like that, and he also, if it's something that's not a major type of tournament or something where he needs to focus, he'll kind of break down as he's going, what he's doing and why he's doing it, what adjustments he's making, etc. And I try to do something similar to that at least for what I'm doing, but my knowledge is nowhere near as vast as his.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And that's the thing, Victor, is we're not wanting you to take up time, but we do acknowledge when people need to go follow somebody else because they're a wealth of bowling knowledge. Because the entire premise of all this is to get the community better, and you're a great resource, brother.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all about.
And another guy I follow is Bowling Grollis, Grollis. He's German. His daughter is German as well. Natalie is his daughter. And they are a fantastic bowling family. They teach a lot of guys, because a lot of guys will ask me, I'm not a traditional 3-finger guy, like I've mentioned. And they'll ask me, well, how should I try to hook it or whatever? It's hard for me to give knowledge on something that I don't necessarily understand myself. Because if I try to do it 3 fingers, I can't. I can understand the premise of how you do it, but I can't do it. It's like dribbling a basketball and running. I can't do that either. I look like I just bought my body and I don't know how to use it yet. If you've ever seen Space Jam back in the day, and then when all their skills get taken from them, and they're just like trying to hobble around the basketball court. That's what I look like. I can't do it. I've never been very athletic in that manner. So it's really hard to explain that kind of thing. So I tend to try not to give
I think you did a pretty good job on that one.
advice on something like that. I usually try to direct them to someone that I know can can help them. And Bowling
Well,
Rollins,
and that's
he
and
does a
that's
lot.
all the reason why I took a summer to learn two-handed bowling. Now, granted, I was a quarter thumb two-hander, but I learned two-handing specifically so I could coach it because that gave me a better understanding of the mechanics because I had to learn it myself.
And see, I looked into getting my coaching certification because, like I said, I have plenty of knowledge and understanding. It's just the ability because of the way that I do bowl. It makes it hard to do what I say. Does that make sense? Like, there's that old saying.
Do as I say, not as I do.
Well, there's
Yeah.
that old saying: those who can't, those who can do, don't coach, or something like that, and those who can't.
Yeah, those who can't do teach.
Yeah, there you go. That one. That's and that's kind of how I look at it. Is like I can explain something to somebody in a way that they can understand it, but I can't necessarily do it. I can kind of help guide somebody through positioning and stuff like that based on what I'm observing for them, and generally I can help them out. And obviously it's not going to get better on the first try, of course, but that's something that I'm actually pretty good at, is picking up on what kind of changes need to be made and that kind of thing. It's just doing it myself is where I find the difficulty from, right? But like my channel, like this one, like Bowlers Helping Bowlers, that's something that I like to do in my channel. Like, everyone is always welcome in my lives and throughout my channel and stuff like that. Like, I don't care if you average a 100 or if you average 230. If you bowl a 130 and that's a great game for you and you're proud of it, I'm proud of you too. Because everybody starts somewhere. We all progress at a different pace and we all get to where we're going to get when we get there. You're not going to make anything happen any faster. No matter how hard you try, you're still only going to be able to progress at your own rate.
Right.
But I believe that supporting other bowlers and their journey is extremely important, because bowling is no different than any other sport or any instrument or anything that you're trying to get proficient at. Once you hit a plateau, so to speak, trying to surpass that plateau to the next step can be a very difficult challenge, and it can be discerning to the point where you want to give up, and trying to keep people in it and try to keep progressing, right? A lot of support sometimes is needed for stuff like that. So I welcome anybody and everybody. I have guys that do like Paralympics in my channel, and I have some very loyal followers through that. I have really loyal followers who are very high skill bowlers. I have a wide variety of a little bit of everybody, but I just bring a very down to earth atmosphere that's accepting of anybody and everybody, and I don't just bowl and not talk. If you comment, I try to reply. I don't always see every comment, but you get acknowledgement as well. I acknowledge everything that I see, and as well as I have a face for radio. So this is what I always
Hey, that's
tell
my
people.
line.
I like to talk too. I'm very long-winded. If you haven't noticed, I apologize.
But no, that was the thing. The very first live I jumped in on yours, I hopped in. Your chat was basically dead for some reason, and I hop in, and me and you have a discussion for 2 games, and you're like, "Hey man, my chat was really dead. I appreciate it. That's making the night go by a little better."
Yeah, because I like to talk, and I like to talk to people, and I'm very open. It doesn't even have to be about bowling. I'll talk about anything and everything. I'm just naturally a talker. I have ADD, so that's part of it. But
What up, Smooth?
I just enjoy conversation and I enjoy people. And you never know how you can make somebody's day better. I was always raised to believe that you make an impression on somebody every day, but the type of impression is up to you. And that's something that I like to live by. So, you can really change somebody's day. You can change their mood. You could even save a life. You never know.
Oh God, yeah.
You never know how much that acknowledgement matters to somebody, and so.
And that was the other cool thing last week. That Artemis Prime that we watched him practice.
Mm-hmm.
He had set a like goal for his video of 15. And I had sat there, I was scrolling through at work, don't tell my boss, but I was watching bowling on TikTok while I was at work.
I do that. I watch Victor. I can't tell you how many times I've watched him do tournaments while I'm at work.
And I'm like, this dude seriously has a light goal of 15. I blew him up to like $2,000. Dropped like 5 or 6 TikTok logos on him. He's like, that seriously, that is the first time anybody's ever gifted me anything on one of my lives. I'm like,
It matters.
and as soon as he said that, I tagged Kober. I shared with Kober. I shared with Brian. I shared with all my bowling people. I'm like, hey, let's scoop this dude up.
Yeah, and so that's the thing is that it matters. You know, I know the world is led to believe a lot of the time that your feelings don't matter and that it's just you against the world and that kind of thing. But that's really not the case. People are meant to be together. We're meant to work together to accomplish big things. Like if you look at how things are in the past, and we'll just go, like, look at the oh, let's see, let's just pick a generation. Let's go like in the 60s and then look at how things have men built things big things, and how long they last versus how long things last now, and that kind of thing. You know, it was one of those deals where we had to work together for a common goal, and you don't see that so much now. More often than not these days, it's more me against you, instead of, hey, let's work together and see where we can go together. Let's see how high we can grow, how high we can get, how much we can grow together. And I look at it from that perspective. Like, if I can grow and I can take you with me, jump on board. Let's go, brother.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I
am
mean?
I am a firm believer in a rising tide rises all boats.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm not trying to step on toes. I'm not trying to leave anybody behind, and I enforce that at work. With my position, I'm not a supervisor, but I have supervisory access. So it's like the manager, the lead, and then me. And so I have people under me, and then I only have 2 people over me. So, but I try to reinforce that with each other as well. So it's like, yes, you have to work together because, you know, it's a work environment. But it's also one of those deals where it's not, hey, screw this guy. It's, hey, let's work together and make the night easier, because you're just making stuff harder on yourself and each other when you could combine your forces together and actually do less. So if you really want to do less, you got to bring somebody with you, because all you're doing is just putting more work on somebody else, you know, to get there. But if you work together in that aspect, both of you can do equal an amount of work, and you both do less.
Yeah, 100%.
But with my promotions, I always try to take somebody with me. So I always look at the next guy and go, all right, who wants to take my place? Who can take my place? And then I try to reinforce that. So I don't try to step over people or anything like that. I try to bring people with me. If you want to be successful, that's what I want. And I want to see everyone be successful and do well in life. That's just the kind of person that I am. I'm not big on pain and suffering and that kind of thing. So anything I can do to help other people, and that kind of thing. So anything I can do to help other people, I try to do. So if I can make a small change in someone's life for a positive way, that's important to me. You know, so as simple as just saying hi, that's important to me. You know, so as simple as just saying hi to somebody, or you're holding a door open for somebody, you know, those little things, you know, they matter.
Oh, they do.
They matter
All
very
right,
much.
now I'll ask the question, because we started toying around with this idea last week.
Yeah, sorry, I sidetracked.
Oh no, you're good. Should we hold a TikTok Open bowling tournament?
Yes.
Absolutely.
You know,
Are you down?
Me, Ryan Jackson, and quite a few people have thought about that on multiple occasions. There's a place here in Chandler, Oklahoma. Have you ever watched the House Bowling when he does the world's longest bowling lane, or the U.S.'s bowling?
Yeah. The 100-foot bowling. lane.
Yeah.
It's in Chandler, Oklahoma. It's like 2.5 hours from me.
Oh, that caught Victor's attention.
They do have multiple lanes as well. See, the 100-foot lane is actually upstairs, and you have to rent it, and they only allow so many people. But Ryan Jackson and I had actually talked about doing something like that in like Dallas, because it's more centrally. It's southern central, but it's more centrally located, or in Chandler, because then you can rent out that lane upstairs, and we can all take turns. You know, everybody, you could get teams of 8 or 6 or whatever the limit is, and then you can kind of rotate out because I think you do it by like the hour, maybe, or like a half hour
Yeah.
thing. But then we could
We could
just
do it
rent
for a
out the whole
charity.
alley underneath, and then we could have this tournament underneath. And then let's say you're waiting for your squad to come up, you can go upstairs and bowl on that 100-foot lane. That's a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yeah.
I like the
That would
idea.
be pretty dope.
But did,
What if we
isn't the
did it
high
for charity?
score? Isn't the high score there now like 240 something? Because Packy dropped like a 240,
I was gonna
250
say,
on it.
I'm pretty sure Packy set the record there. It's like a 240 or 250 something now. So we got to get Victor in there to beat it. Yeah. Because with my hand, it's not going to make it down the lane. I have to throw one board.
I mean,
like
I could throw
down.
my spy and get it to hold pocket.
I'm going to have to use my spare ball. Like that's I don't.
I'd be basically the plastic rose.
Mm.
But yeah, the
Wow.
ultimate goal is to have a big enough house to where we could actually do it, hold all the TikTokers that want to come bowl it, and the ultimate goal is to have a stream on every pair.
And see, I like that idea a lot. I think that would be something really cool, you know. And then if we could do it over like a 2 or 3 day kind of thing, you could even have a scratch thing, you know, like somebody at Victor's level, for example. You know, he's going to need something to scratch, right? You give him a handicap, and well, he's not going to have any. But
But, I mean, we could make it like a charity event. We could
that
do
would be
raffles.
dope. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
that
do
would be
it
great.
just
You know, so if he had like a handicap division and a scratch division, that kind of thing, I think that would do well. I really do.
Open division, women's division, 50-50 for charity.
I think that could be cool. You could do bracketing or anything like that.
do a mass split the pot.
Mm-hmm. I think that would be cool. You could, you know, depending on the size of the field, you could probably pay out the top 5.
Yep.
You know, or maybe even the top 10, depending on this. Like I said, depending on the size of the field and what your entry would be and that kind of thing. He says gifts go to charity. Yeah, we could do something like that. I mean,
Yeah.
this, like I said, this chair it's about half broken.
Do like donations for bowling balls for youth kids to get them involved.
that'd
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Do
100%.
do anything for the youth, because the youth is the future of the game, and I think that's getting neglected a lot right
Yeah.
now.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And we don't have bowling here for you know, like high school bowling and stuff like that. And I don't think we even have a youth league here. Where I originally bowled in Altus, Oklahoma.
Oh,
which
it's
is
like, great, now I've got another project.
They have youth bowling there, and I believe they actually do have a high school team here. Like this alley here is not very competitive, and it's very small. It was built in 1958. It was originally a 16-lane wood lane alley. And when the roof caved in quite a few years ago, it is now only a 10-lane alley. And we took out the wood last June and went with synthetic layovers on the Brunswick surface. So that was a sad thing to see the wood go. But with this being a smaller alley, I think they have college bowling, I believe, in Weatherford, which is about 15 minutes to the east of where I bowl here. And but it's just bowling around this area is not. There's not a lot of places to bowl in southwestern Oklahoma, and there's just not a big following for it. So, you know, trying to push that out, I think would be great. You know,
Isn't
No, I
Joel's
haven't,
league-
Josh.
or
You need to
Lane's-
message me what's going on with that.
Isn't Joel's lane pretty big? His facility, the one that his pro shop's at.
Yeah, that is Royal Gate Woodlands. That's a mega house.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, I know Ohio's got quite a few too. I mean,
Oh yeah,
high school bowling out here is crazy. I mean, there's some really good bowlers in the high school circuit right now. There's some really good bowlers in the high school circuit right now. There's a
yeah,
lot
I
of
was
good lanes
thinking-
here.
Look at that.
Like centrally located, so I was thinking like
Yeah.
Kentucky, Tennessee,
Mm-hmm.
something that's relatively easy to get to.
out here it's all ag. We have cattle.
Right, right.
I think Kentucky's got a massive lanes in Louisville, maybe.
Louisville, that's where they do the Louisville Derby.
Yeah.
And then there's In Tennessee, there's a big one it's over by the fort in Tennessee. But for the life of me, I'm drawing a blank on where it is now. CTD actually just opened a second pro shop area up there.
So here's
Because they're in
another.
Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and then this other one is right in right across the Tennessee border.
Here's
Because they're in
another.
Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and then this other one is right in right across the Tennessee border.
See, you know more than me. I don't know where anything is.
See, I know there's a dilemma starting. A lot of bowling alleys are switching to string pins. How can we
Clarksville, that's
prevent
where it
that?
is. I mean, string pins get a lot of hate, but it's a lot of hate of it is on the rec non-certified string pins. The
Okay.
USBC certified string pins are a lot different than the non-certified rec string pins.
Okay.
See, I've never bowled on one. I've heard both good and bad on them, and I've watched Black Swan do some leagues
Yeah.
on string pins. From what I can tell, it seems to be like a love-hate relationship for everybody that bowls on them. But since I've never bowled on them, I can't really place an opinion on them. So I honestly don't know. But me personally, I'm not a big fan. But if that's the direction that the sport goes, and that's the direction the sport goes, and
Right.
learning to adapt, right? But
I've bowled on them. Don't like them by any means. However, I think Black Swan said it probably the best I've ever anyone really say it this past week on one of their lives. It's just like anything else. It's a learning curve.
mhm.
As you've thrown at them for a while, you're going to figure out what you can get away with and what you can't get away with. And
I was going to say, from my experience, the certified string pins love high flush. High flush carries super well, and you're going to get less. You're going to get less light mixer carries.
yeah,
Yeah, and see, I think that's also subjected to each individual house as well, just because, like at this alley, I leave a lot of corners, and I don't leave corners in Altus where I bowl. I stone 9 a lot. So I leave a bunch of 9 pins over there, but over here, actually, I take that back. I hardly ever leave corners at all here. I split here more than anything. I tend to split more
Of
than
course.
anything. So, but there I stone 9. I'm in the pocket far more in Altus, and then so every house is a little different, and the stone 8 king that was, I don't know if he's still in here or not. He can probably tell you that every house plays a little bit different in that manner, and of course if you bowl in a house long enough, you kind of learn what you can carry and what you can't, and what you can get away with, the ugly strike, so to speak. For here, Brooklyn is the way. You're gonna carry a Brooklyn here more than you're ever gonna carry a Brooklyn in Altus where I bowl.
Well, that's the thing. Like St. Louis high flush will leave you corner pins all day long.
all day.
Like I will hit high flush and leave. Now, granted, remember I'm a lefty. I will hit high flush and I will probably leave 4 10 pins.
Crestwood and Imperial, the owners in the
I
same
very
village.
rarely leave corner pins.
Martinez.
It's usually a stone 9.
Now you
And a lot
need
of
to
that
read
is
it.
just my entry angle
But I
tends
don't
to be
think the
really
kid was
strong
that
because
young,
I
but same
like
boat
to
as
get it
Martinez.
right.
Jesus.
And I like to cover
We're
the
talking about
line.
it at work today.
It causes my entry angle to be so strong that and I have a lot of continuous layouts and motion, etc. So I tend to just blaze a path through the 8-10, and I will go right. I'll have leave that blower 9 every time. That's something that I'm more known for 9 pins and 5 pins than I have ever been known for 10 pins, which is part of the reason my 10 pin percentage is as low as it is just because I honestly don't practice them either as much as I should. That's on me as my individual bowler. That's on me for not practicing them.
Ah, good God, I'm getting attacked.
Hello. So, that's on me, but I also don't lead them it's very rare that I leave them. I leave 5 pins. Fives and
I'll get it
nines
back tomorrow.
a lot of the time.
Tomorrow.
Dude, I left a pocket lily on one of my live streams.
I have never
I'm
left
getting
a
it back.
lily. I want one. Is that bad that I want one?
Once you get one, you won't want it again.
I just want to shoot at it one time. I want to try.
You get back.
Heard it's
tomorrow.
the gift that
I
keeps on
want to
getting.
try.
You get back.
Say it again.
But dead flush pocket, boom, lily.
Really.
Yeah. You get back.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
5 pins. I get a beer. Yeah, that's my moderator. That is my good buddy
You
Chris.
don't
That's
roll tomorrow, do you?
fairly regularly, with exception of things happening recently. I haven't really talked to much of anybody. Yeah, I actually funny story about a 5 pin.
I don't know what time.
You know, the hand up for the 5 pin, buy a beer, right?
Yeah.
One time I was live streaming in Clinton, where I do my leagues, and I left a 5 and I missed it. Ryan Jackson was
Missed
the
a 5
only
on
one-
stream.
He was the
Missed a 5 on
only
stream.
one to
Yeah,
have
Big
his name
Tom
up in
didn't
the
like it.
chat. And I'm not even kidding.
Don't ever
I
do that
bought
shit
his
again.
entire team around in South Texas. But I called the alley and I told him whatever he wants. You know, I figured out what lane he was on.
Stop
And I
before
bought
you
his
fall and
entire
hurt yourself.
Around on me
I have
just
time for
because
you
I
to
missed
limping
the
around
drive.
for a
He was
week.
the only one to put his hand up, so I bought him an around.
But yeah, that's the thing is, you've never known pressure until you leave a 5 and the entire house
Oh, absolutely.
is standing there with a hand up.
As soon as you
I
leave,
owe Chris
And
like
the
a
big
30
house
pack.
says $10.
I know
Chris
if
has
I
seen
turn
me-
around, I'm gonna see at least 10 hands. I know it every time. Luckily, I don't leave them very often, and I mean very often. I don't think I've missed one yet. So now I said that, I'm damned.
You see, bad decisions, that's my nightmare right there.
Oh yeah, that would get
Poor guy.
that would get
Wow.
expensive. I leave more 5s because of the
Where's the
just
neighbor?
how often I end up going high over here because of the system. Like I said, trying to stay in the pocket here has always been the challenge because with the wood you had a higher friction surface, and then we went to these Brunswick surfaces, and so they're just as high friction, low volume. So staying right of the head pin has always been the biggest challenge for me at this house. So my average is not very good here, but at my home alley that I used to bowl at, my average is 20, 25 pins higher because it's just a much better surface and whatnot. You know, I'm able to bowl better there. I actually have my high series there, you know, which for me is really good. For others, they're like, eh. I shot 696, almost got my first 700 back in January, so that's my new record. Something I was really proud of, and it was the last tournament that Kelly was with me, and that's a positive memory I'll always have, you know.
Oh yeah.
Because I really feel like this is my year, and I'm going to get my first 300. I'm going to get my first 700. You know, if I play my cards right, maybe I'll get an 800. But I very highly doubt it. I'm not. I wish.
I'm still hunting my first 8. The closest I got was 792. I shot a 260, 290 games 1 and 2. I needed 212 for my 800, and I'm like, I could shoot 212 with my eyes closed.
Yeah.
Quit focusing, shot a 208.
Oh,
Those who are scooping, I'll get you back after the live. Just letting you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody that's followed since we started, we will all get caught up as soon as the live's over. It's kind of hard to do it in live without pausing every 2 seconds.
All right, so I got a question for me personally. I cannot throw a spare ball. I can't throw a straight ball at all. I have to use a hook ball. Should I just get an entry level ball and use it?
Not necessarily, because the way you throw it, entry level is going to get sideways and hook even worse.
Yeah, but I use a physics blackout.
I would just get really good at throwing a backup ball.
I mean, I do. I can do that. I mean, Brian's witness. I've picked up some pretty nasty left side of the lane spares with backup ball, but I have to use a blackout for physic to do it because I cannot throw a straight ball.
Or the other suggestion I have is go to 10pindoctors.com. That's J.R. Raymond's website.
Yeah.
And get a rev trainer and work on coming dead up the back on the release with that rev trainer.
Okay.
By the
Because
way-
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
No, finish what you're saying. And I'll go back to it.
Because like I today I used the SpongeBob ball and it's always left. It's always right. It's this or that. But if I pick up my Black Widow, I could pick it up all day long.
But are you?
It's 'cause you're
hooking
not
into
thinking
or you
about
going
it.
Straight at it.
No, I'm taking it and just flat resting straight down, just straight forward. Like obviously I take my eyes left of it or right of it. So I flattened it out, but I still miss. But if I pick up, say, my daughter's raw hammer, I can throw it and get it to hook right into where I need it to go.
So it sounds like to me that you could use a spare ball if you wanted to, because if you're able to manipulate your hand position enough to throw something that's reactive in a straighter line, it sounds to me like you probably could do it like a plastic ball or something like that. Then it would just come down to learning how to make that adjustment between the two.
Okay.
Because what it sounds like to me is same thing, similar to me. I do have like a plastic that it's not going to hook, and then I've got my reactive resin that I generally use, but I've got this hot pink spare ball, and it's not going to hook no matter how much hand you put in it, and you can turn that thing straight sideways. It ain't going to move. It's just going to go straight. And I used to be able to do that. Once I got on with Captain Flag, we didn't have anything at the time.
Now,
When I got on, we didn't have any spare balls. So I got the
Yeah.
closest thing I could get, which was the Tempest that I used. So I've had to relearn to kind of hook into my Tempest, for example. Now I have a spare ball, but now I can't throw it straight at my tin pin anymore because I used to learn how to. I used to know how to do that. Patrick can tell you, I had an OTB spare ball, multicolored. I like bright stuff.
That's cool.
So it's basically just retraining yourself, because if you can already manipulate your hand position with a reactive ball to be able to get your corner pin, then you could theoretically be able to hit a 10 pin with something that's a straighter piece that's not meant to hook. It's just going to come
Okay.
down to reteaching yourself again. And this is something that if you're interested in it, I'm not saying do it or don't. That would have to be your decision, but I think that you would have the capability of doing it, because being able to flatten out with a reactive ball is, in my opinion, actually more difficult than it is to be able to use a spare ball, because I know less people that can do what you're doing than have people how to do it with a spare ball. There's far
Okay.
less people that can do that with a reactive ball.
Because
And that's-
Brian can witness for it, because I have to say my 10 pin, I have to throw at the gutter and let it just go left right down it straight.
Yeah,
And
that's
I do
what I
I do it
do.
all the time.
I was gonna say, and if you want something that's just got a smidge of reaction to it, it was a great comment in the comments that just got blown through. The hammer axe.
Yeah.
It is a
Axe.
it is a spare ball that is a very, 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 very light reactive.
Yep. They just
So-
have
so
a
should I
reactive
just-
surface.
Okay. Should I go with just a new torpedo then? Because it's basically a spare ball with reactive.
No.
That has a core.
That is horribly mismarketed. The torpedo will hook out the house if the conditions are right.
Oh.
And
Okay.
Yeah, it has a core. It's going to be like the Hammer Widow spare back in the day. So it was a spare ball, but it still had the gas mask core in it, even though it was a plastic ball. Pyramid also made one point in time the Fortress, I believe it was, that you could get, and it was a plastic ball with an asymmetrical core in it as well. So
Yeah,
there
my
was-
Radical
okay.
Spy is the same thing.
All right. And for the group in the chat that don't know me, I'm a 9-pin bowler converting into 10-pin. So that's where my frustration is. I didn't have to worry about picking up 10 pins or whatnot until just recently.
Yeah, and like I said, I mean, if you're able to do that with a reactive ball, I commend you, because like I said, there's not many people that can manipulate their hand and their ball motion enough to be able to be forward enough to just get a corner pin with a reactive ball.
Yeah, well, Brian can vouch for it. He's seen some of the spares I picked up with a reactive ball. I Hyper Venom, I'm pretty good with it too, with picking up spares. So
The hardest part would be if you do decide to go with like a plastic ball and you want to get into that, you're just going to have to remember that you're going to have to be straight at it. So making that change from hooking into it to being straight at it, that's going to be the harder part of it. because you're still going to be thinking, I need to open my body just a little bit. You're going to have to change your targeting. So even, and that's the good thing, is if you do get around it, it doesn't matter. It's good. That ball's going to go straight anyway. And that's why I like something like that, because the way that I throw, I'm going to be up the side of it no matter what. At some point, in some manner, it's going to have some side rotation. So for me, you know, I need something I can dole down, or I can just get around it, and that doesn't matter, and it's going to go straight. So, and I also go with a heavier weight for a spare ball. And I know it sounds stupid to some people, but if you throw 15, get a 16-pound spare ball. Because if the only thing you're going to use it for is your corners or for direct spare shooting, the heavier weight can actually slow down your arm swing enough that you can be more direct, you can be more on target with it. At least for me, I found that works very well. So I use a 16-pound spare ball.
I use a 14-pound spare ball.
See, and that works too, because people can throw it fast enough and hard enough that the targeting, it's the same in that manner. But for me, it's easier if I use a heavier ball, because it doesn't allow me to get my arm crazy, and I can be more direct with that heavier weight. My ball speed's going to be slower, but it doesn't matter if you're on target. As long as your targeting is where you need it, especially for a 10-pin, you're direct at it, you can knock it over with an 8-pound ball. So, you know, but for me, a 16-pound ball works better.
Because see, even Brian had to correct me, because I was the type, if I left a 4-7, for example, I would go to the left side of the lane. I just lean down and just rotate it out and just let it baby hook into the last two, this 4 and 7. But he was like, no, you need to move right and just rip that ball, and it would go across. And he can vouch for that too.
Yeah, see, throwing straight has never been my forte. That's what I was saying like earlier, is like I can't throw down the 5, for example. It's always going to hook some.
Yeah.
So the further right I go, the more gutters I'm going to throw. So like if I try to move right and just beam it at the 10-pin, that ain't going to happen. I have to cross down.
Yeah, I have to too. But,
Yeah, that's the best way to do it, honestly, is to open your angle that way and throw it straight at it. The main thing is to remember your points down lane, so where you're crossing at the arrows, where you're crossing at the dots, etc. And imagine that line, and then just try to put your arm on line with it, and then that ball is going to go straight down that line.
So
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm glad he brought up the 10-pin rev trainer. I wanted to get you guys' thoughts if he actually got the trainer that will actually track your actual rev. How many of you guys would buy that thing?
Take my money.
Take it.
I don't know. I'm going to be the odd man out, because I don't do a whole lot of drills or anything like that. That's something that I've never been good at. And it's just because of the way that I bow is so weird. Like a 1-step drill, well, my last step is huge. It's massive. So like a 1-step drill, I'm just going to fall on my face. Or a no-step drill is, I could probably do a no-step, but a 1-step drill for me would be almost impossible, because my step is so large. But I rely a lot on 10-Pin Toolkit. I love the 10-Pin Toolkit app, and I can work on my lines that way. But as far as like me doing drills, I don't generally do them, but I do recommend them. I 100% recommend them. Just because I don't do them doesn't make, that's not the right way to do it. You should always be doing drills. If you really want to progress and get better, then you need to be doing drills or something along the lines to increase your knowledge and your ability. So in a lot of ways, I hold myself back by not doing drills.
One of the things that you would like, Patrick, that he's working on, which he's very coy on this, but I guarantee you it's a launch monitor.
Yeah, I knew exactly what you were going to say. Yeah, absolutely.
That would be neat, so that you can check your launch angle a lot better. Yeah,
launch angle, degree of release.
Yeah, he was talking about everything will be able to be synced together. So he's talking about multiple pieces that you can buy to basically make a
specto.
Only downside I see to the Doctor is he is a little bit expensive at times. I mean, That's the catch for me. I don't want to keep sinking a whole lot of money into it because I'm already addicted to bowling balls. I mean, we went up and demoed
Unreal.
more storm balls today. I mean,
But yeah, I mean, his regular rev trainer, his mini rev, or his regular rev trainer, I think is like 75 or 80. His mini is 50. I'm pretty sure the rev trainer that's going to have the rev rate monitor on is probably going to be somewhere around 100.
Yeah, but I mean, at least that would give me more information because I'm more like I want to see numbers and visually see what I'm doing to get numbers to certain ways, you know, not just sit there and spin a ball.
Yeah.
Okay,
Steven, as Joel would say, that's the daddy ball. That ball is insane. I have to agree with you.
All right, now I want to go back to when we first started. I know you're gonna be punching this ball up short pinned, but the Fusion, the most common ball that I've heard this ball compared to has got me very excited for one.
Okay.
Because the ball that I've heard it compared to most is my current daddy ball, the Venom Shock.
I don't know, because the Venom Shock to me is more of a benchmark ball. And I say that respectively, and the reason why is because it's very versatile.
Yeah.
Just going spec-wise versus surface, cover core combination, etc., it can do a whole lot of different things. Now, you watch EJ Tackett throw it, it's angular. He can cover, he can get it down and late. Now, when Kelly used it, it was very straight and forward. And it was actually the first ball that I actually ever bought her. It's the one ball that I'm not getting rid of. It's for her was very forward. It picks up very soon. Whereas the Fusion being a solid, and it's like 250, 240, I believe, something along those lines, if I remember correctly, it's going to be more of a mid-lane ball. I could see it similar in nature, being kind of in that benchmark genre, but it's going to have a little bit lower flare potential. But knowing the cover that's on it, it's definitely going to be strong, because if it's anything like my Lord Exodus iron that I have, that ball definitely reads early. It definitely reads early, because I put a 6-inch pin on it, and on a lighter volume, it'll still read at like 30 feet. So it's going to be something that's generally going to be stronger. So I'm hoping that with a shorter pin on it, it'll be more controllable. Even though it's going to read so early, I'm trying to get kind of that urethane-like motion.
Yeah.
So to speak. But you're not going to match urethane. I've spoke with Victor Cortez about that at one point in time. Urethane is urethane. It's always urethane. You're only going to get it so close, right? The only way to match urethane motion is to get a urethane. So, you know what I mean? But I know that ball, spec-wise, is going to read a little. It's going to look weaker than what it really is, and I find that across a lot of our pieces is that they're very underrated in their capabilities. So you'll see a weaker cover core combo, and you're going to go, it's not going to do much. I beg to differ. I have a ball. Actually, I have a video of my Tempest, which is my spare ball, and literally hooking the entire lane. Every ball that I have, I can hook the entire lane with, if I really want to. My Christmas ball, the Triple Xmas is what they're called. It's 252-030, and I've got a one board with that. I've hooked the lane with it. I put a 40 by 4 by 25 on that, and it's a very rounded shape. So I think that's going to be a more capable piece. So I think it could fall in that benchmark category just as well as the Venom Shock. I think it could, but I think it's going to be best used on something a longer, heavier volume as a control piece. Nothing that's going to snap off the spot down lane. But if you've got a lot of high friction down lane, but you've got a lot of volume up front, I think it will be a good piece, like maybe a shorter pattern in a way. I know I just said longer pattern, but I think it's just going to be that versatile that it can be used in multiple ways. So,
Yeah, like I was thinking, like with the way you were describing it, like on a longer, heavier front pattern, I could just throw it the way I would throw my Venom Shock, because my Venom Shock, its ball motion is what I call continular.
yeah,
It is it is late continuous at the late end of the mids,
they're off the break point.
and then it's angular off the back.
Yeah, and I could see that. I could definitely see that. Now, since I haven't thrown mine yet, and like I said, I put a short pin on mine, so I'm not honestly sure what mine will do, because that's the first short pin I've ever drilled. I like more angularity, but I also like controlled continuous motion down lane. So a lot of my stuff is going to be in the 35 to 40 degree VAL angles, so that I don't just, like I said, I don't just blow the cover off, because high rev and angularity don't necessarily match for a lot of two finger guys, or at least bowlers that are similar to me. It makes it really hard to control down lane. So I tend to go with a more controlled layout, or an earlier reading position, to help kind of slow that down and allow it to be more continuous down lane. So,
Yeah, the way I get
Go ahead.
the way I get my continular ball motion is those balls that I want that specific type of ball motion out of. I drill them 65 by 5.5 by 30.
Okay. Yeah. And see, I'm more in the 3.5 to 4 inch pin, and I tend to vary between. I think my lowest VAL angle, my smallest VAL angle, is a 25. I don't believe I have anything smaller than a 25, but generally I tend to go with like a 35 or a 40, and that's pretty well across almost every piece I have. And that allows me a little bit smoother motion down lane, especially because I put them in generally a higher flaring position. It kind of slows that transition down when it comes off the spot, so it's not so sharp, but it can still make the turn no matter what. It's going to make that turn, and it's going to be more continuous down lane. So, but I tend to drill the drilling angle, or the first angle, if you will, is usually shorter. So, like my Higgs is 35 by 4 by 40, and that's my go-to ball. That's the first ball out of my bag every time. I actually drilled my Unreal the exact same way at a 35 by 4 by 40, because they're different balls, but spec-wise they're very similar. And this last live I did last Tuesday, I actually found it did exactly what I wanted. They're essentially the same ball spec-wise. The only main difference being the Higgs Neo was 1500 out of box polished originally. I knocked the polish off, but kept it out of 1500, but I kept the Unreal at 1500 polished. If you look at the spec, like I said, they're almost identical. Cover and core are completely different, but I got exactly what I wanted, whereas the Higgs is going to read a little bit earlier when it sees friction. My Unreal, everybody's, lays it out different and whatnot, but for me, the Unreal gives me just that little bit of extra when I can't quite get to the pocket with my Higgs. It allows me to be able to use that. So like this last Tuesday on the right lane, I was in my Higgs, and on the left lane, I was on the Unreal. Essentially set up the same. But when I needed just that little bit of extra length, I had it. But as far as a benchmark ball goes that we offer, I would say the Unreal. It's going to be the most versatile piece, I think, hands down. Just my opinion. But I think you're going to have the most versatility with that particular ball. Strongest between the Judge and the Dragon is hard to say, because they're both fantastic.
Yeah, the Dragon I've heard the most, and Swag did this on purpose. The most comparable ball motion and release for that ball is a smoother, slightly more controlled Black Widow.
That's exactly what I was going to describe. When I watch it go down the lane, that's what it reminds me of, my original Black Widow.
No, and for which one? For the Dragon, you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and
He's over there trying hardcore to get me out of hammer.
No, I'm just telling you exactly what
I'm just picking
every
on you.
Swag staffer I've talked to, and me and Dragon, me and Bearded Wonder had this conversation pre-release, and he even said yes, based on what I know about the ball, that's what they were going for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah,
like
that's
it for
something
that
that we've
long.
worked on for a long time is being able to build stronger pieces that can keep up with today's volumes. Because if you look back in the past at where they were built and designed and whatnot, where all of the designing process took place and stuff, everything was from Korea, right? Well, they naturally they bowl similar places to where I bowl now. So they naturally have more friction and lower volume. So they didn't make a lot of really strong stuff in the past, and that's why, in some ways, in the past, swag has more California bowling. In the past, it built up a little bit of a black eye as being they're not very strong, they're too smooth, they're too late, whatever. But you have to think of where those balls originated from. So they were designed for that area, and then they were brought here where we have a higher volume, we have less friction, etc. Now, if you compare like something that Victor would be bowling on, or anybody with a sport pattern or on tour, those are much higher volume, much more difficult patterns than what they're bowling on in Korea or Japan or some of these other places that have a lot higher friction and lower volume. So now to be more competitive in the U.S. market, they're finally starting to see that that's what we really need is something that's gonna bite more and be able to pick up down lane and be something that you can trust out of the bag on those higher volume or longer patterns. And I think they've really hit the nail on the head. And I think, I have a lot of older pieces. A lot of the stuff that I have has been discontinued for quite some time. And like I said, I use them across the board on everything. So obviously some things they excel at better than others, but I think there's always something out there for you, and your surface adjustment is obviously going to be the biggest key factor there, and making smart choices in your layouts as well.
Yeah,
so.
and that's the other thing that I'm really excited about as far as the next round of swag releases go, is because swag, when they release these 6, it's like, okay, here's a 6-ball arsenal and everything fits.
Mm-hmm.
These next however many that they're going to release, I have a feeling are going to be the tweener balls. Like if you need something between an Unreal and a Dragon, they're going to fill that tweener spot. If you need something between the Dragon and the Judge, they're going to fill that tweener spot. Mm-hmm. That is what's got me excited.
Yeah,
and I can see that. I don't know. Nothing has been carried out to us, which I would only be able to say so much anyway.
Right. Yeah, there's only so much you could say, even if you did know.
Exactly, but as far as I know right now, I don't have a clue what's coming down the line. Used to, we had a lot more knowledge. We would have months in advance of knowledge of more what's coming out. But right now, with all of the changes that have been made and that kind of thing, I honestly couldn't tell you what's going to be coming down the line.
Well, and that's what I think they did a really good job on this, is they did the 6, which is like, hey, this is basically every League Bowler 6-ball arsenal. Here you go, everything you need. Mm-hmm. And it was their, grand we're back moment. And we're not like we were before. And they're riding the hype off of that, so they haven't said a peep about what's next.
Mm-hmm. And I have to agree. I think that's, in my opinion, I think it's a good decision for them to kind of remain more quiet about it, because they've never necessarily been really big about the hype. So I know that that's a big change for them this year. Going with that, they really pushed it out and they really went hard on that and trying to hype things up and stuff. But it was also very important that we let people know that, we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere, and we're here to compete, and we can do anything the big boys can do. And we've proven that on multiple occasions. There have been multiple staffers throwing 300s with our stuff, and there are plenty of guys that aren't staffers that are throwing 300s, and they're putting up all these honor scores just like anybody else can. So we're definitely here to stay, and we're able to keep up with anybody else. It's just trying to break that stigma from our past. That's the biggest thing with people, is trying to forgive and forget. Yeah. Right. So because there are pro shops out there that they won't carry our stuff, they won't drill our stuff, because of the stigma from the past. But I have a past, you have a past, everybody has a past. If you hold everybody to their past, then how do you truly know somebody? Yeah. Because people change, companies. They change direction. They either progress or they digress. And in my personal opinion, I think we're definitely trending in the right direction, and we're moving much better in the right direction that we need to be moving than we've ever been before.
I think honestly the most legit like application to one of my favorite quotes, because I'm a wrestling and DDP yoga person too, is one of Jake the Snake Roberts' quotes when he got into DDP yoga. My history is not my destiny.
Exactly. And I agree, very much. And and it's like I'm on with this sportwear as well, It's also a smaller company.
Lamb chop's done.
So when you're looking into comparisons and stuff like that, it's hard to make those comparisons because our stuff comes from Italy. So it takes a little longer. That makes people kind of frustrated. But you have to remember, everything we do is handmade. It's a handmade jersey. It's for you. They don't punch out 100 of them and just throw your name on it.
Right.
And some of the things that we offer,
Girl,
you
I
can't
told you
get from
Lamb
other
chop's done.
people
Stop
without
it.
paying a higher price than what we charge. So, ours are much more custom. I don't have one in here
Lamb
with me,
chop's
but
done.
for
You killed
example,
it.
like let me back my
You killed it.
camera up here. So,
You killed
like,
it.
you'll see on some of my jerseys,
Lamb-
like, this
I'll
is
get you another one
the
tomorrow.
that I used to have when I moved furniture. Take badges on chest, right? But let's say I want
Headbutt me.
it's going to have the Viz symbol, which is actually going to be on your right chest. Sorry, right here. So it's going to have the Viz symbol right here. Well, let's say like this Darby symbol here. Let's say this is Vice Inserts. If I want that Vice Inserts, I can put it there. I can put it over here. I can put it over there. I can put it anywhere I want, and it doesn't cost me anything. So the only one that you have to pay for is your primary logo on the front. You can put it on the back, or you can put it on your left chest. And then any additional logo is no charge. You can put as many logos as
You
you
knock her
want,
off there.
and there's no
No, she
charge.
fell off.
Other companies are going to charge you per logo. We don't do that.
Yeah.
If you go through a staffer, we don't charge you for your name. You get your name on the back for free. The only thing you pay for is your main logo on your chest, on the front.
Well, and that was the thing is when I first started talking to you, I had just gotten out of my previous jersey contract, and I could not have been happier about it.
Mm-hmm.
So right now I'm doing the TikTok shop showcase, like shirt right here. You can go to my showcase and pick up one for yourself. And I'm basically trying to do the whole I'm my own sponsor thing and use my TikTok shop money as sponsorship money to get into tournaments and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually I may, consider going to another jersey company and trying the contracted stuff over again. But
And Steven got it right there in the comments. We are a premium jersey. So if you want to look the part that you're doing, our prices will reflect that, of course. But what you have to keep in mind is, are they comparable to other companies? Yes, they are. But what you get for the price is unmatched because we even have what's called a configurator, and you can literally design a completely custom jersey, which I have one coming. And don't let me forget, I will be posting a video on it because I got it made for Kelly. It's literally going to be one of a kind. It's a memorial jersey, and it will be the only one in the world ever made like that jersey. And if you want something like that too, you can do that. If you want something for your team, if you want a completely custom jersey, let's say you like a Dodge Viper, and for whatever reason you want a Dodge Viper on your jersey, you can do that. It doesn't matter what you want on it. You can literally design your own custom jersey. Now the process takes a little bit longer to get a completely custom jersey, as far as that goes in designing your own jersey. But as far as we be competitively in what's called the semi-custom. So if you wanted to go into another company and compare prices and stuff like that, you would have to. You can't look at like the drop ship stuff, the simple stuff that's just a
right
thing with an emblem or with a logo and your name, because then you're going to go, oh, you guys are way too high priced. But what you're not looking at is everything else that you can get in that price. You're not getting it. You're choosing not to get the additional logos. You're choosing not to get a different color or change the font. We offer up to 100 different fonts for your name. If you want your name on your chest, you can do that. You want your name on your sleeve, you can do that. You want a name on each side, do that. You can literally the sky is the limit as far as possibilities go.
I'm thinking that may be a good spot once we get our permanent logo figured out.
Yeah, and they will use it, especially if now if it's a licensed logo by I don't know, like I said, I use the Dodge Viper, as a I'll use that. So if you use the Dodge logo or the Ram logo, anything
Right.
that's going to be licensed, you're going to have a written consent to be able to use that. Now, if it's your own personal logo or anything like that, then and there's no rights to it by any business, then yeah, they'll slap that on there. One of our Viz staffers is also a follower of mine, Kelson at shoot. Now I drew a blank. I have terrible. I'm brain Racks Down Pins Up. They have their own,
It's another
they
one of
have
my
their own
boys.
custom logo, that they design and stuff like that, and their whole team has one, and I think that's fantastic.
But yeah, I think once we settle down on a permanent BHB logo and not the temporary one we're using, I think that'd be an appropriate advertisement for us.
Yeah, for sure. I would look into that, and coming up here soon, I won't say exactly what it is, but I will say that, let's see, today's the 31st. In the next couple of days, there will be some stuff rolled out for discounts and that kind of thing. So there will be more options, especially in the team-based setup for multiple jersey orders. Where you'll get a better deal, if that makes sense. So, especially if you want your whole team to match, and then just kind of change the name on the back or something like that, or then those options would be there. Of course, if you wanted to just go to the website, you just want a discount code, I can put that in there. I generally try to plug it every now and then, so I apologize. I'm going to go ahead and plug it there.
Go for it.
That right there is my discount code for Viz. It's viz-bowling.com or viz-sportwear.it, and that will get you 10% off at checkout at either one of those. And that will also credit. I don't earn anything. So it just gives me credit for the sale, but I do not earn commission off of that. So at least off of that one.
I was gonna say my old company, we would get credits towards jerseys for anything that we got sold.
Ours would be through direct sales, but off the website and that kind of thing. No, I do not earn commission, but I do earn credit towards the sale as far as the acknowledgement that the sale came through me.
Right.
But it's a small thing. It's pretty small. But like I said, I mean, as far as our jerseys go, I love our jerseys. They're fantastic. Our Cool Max. If you bowl in an area that's hot, you're gonna love the Cool Max. It's fantastic. It really is great. It's more of a mesh type deal. If you think like back in grade school sports programs where you had that mesh practice jersey kind of thing, it's similar to that, but it's not as thin, so you can't quite see through it as well. But especially for women, it is recommended that if you do get a Cool Max, that you might want to wear something, like a light
Underneath
shirt.
it.
Yeah, it's best to just to be safe because it is a more of a mesh design.
Right.
But it's very comfortable. Everything I have is the Cool Max. That's what I prefer. We have many different options out there, but the Cool Max is what I usually prefer, and it's also what I recommend. Because we do get hot bowling. You guys, everybody knows that. You're going to get hot.
Oh God, yeah.
Even if it's cold when you first walk in, once you start getting warmed up and you start bowling and everybody else is going, the heat's going to build up. And that Cool Max is really very nice to have. Now, you freeze when you leave during the winter, and when you go outside, you feel the wind. If there's any kind of breeze out there, you're going to feel it.
The headlights turn on.
It's very nice to have it. And I really like it a lot. And like I said, the customization there is absolutely fantastic. So it's definitely worth looking into. But I would recommend speaking with the staffer if there's something that you have in mind that because the website is going to limit you on what your options and availability are as far as your customization goes. So some of the things that you can get, you can't necessarily get through the website. You would have to go through a staffer to be able to get those options, like what I was talking about. If you want multiple logos and that kind of thing, you'll have to go through a staffer because the website does not offer that. It's only going to offer you one main logo, regardless of where you place it, and that's the
Right.
only logo it's going to offer. And I think that that's part of the reason why people don't consider us as much competitively in the market compared to some other jersey companies, because they don't see the actual customization options available to you. But unless you go through the staffer, you're not going to.
Yeah, I did one fully custom jersey. I showed it to Brian, and it did not come out the way I wanted it to. It came out looking like I was a fan of a football team that I really don't like all that much.
I can understand that. And who was that one through? Was that through us?
No, it was H5G.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
But I was like, okay, I want this color. I was like, I want these two base colors, and I did the whole custom design thing, and it got here, and I'm like, it looks like I'm a Denver Broncos fan.
Oh, geez. So I have to keep my cigarette off camera here.
Oh, that's why I've been flipping mine back and forth.
Yeah, I have to keep it off camera because we'll get hit with it. So,
Yep.
that's why.
And I almost forgot the last time I did it, so I'm like, oh crap, flip the camera.
I got
flip the camera.
hit with an age restriction once when I was on league, and I took my camera outside with me. I got hit with a restriction on that, so I try to keep that down. But yeah, I mean,
Yep.
as far as and this is something I said I was going to go back to and touch on, and I never really did. But as far as like getting on staff with companies, regardless of what company it is, they're all going to have requirements, and generally the process is how this works is they're going to open up the application process once a year. That's it.
Yeah.
California Bowling used to be open all year round, and we would take applications all year round. And with the new swag bowling, the new era, we no longer do that. And we also require that you throw our gear. This is just for us. I can't speak for other companies, and I won't speak on their behalf, but I can speak for us. And it is required that you use our equipment prior to applying to be on staff, because what we want is we want people that not just want to represent the company, but people that also enjoy our products and make use of them, and that kind of thing. Whereas some people just want to have a sponsorship or an endorsement or whatever the case is, right? They just want that title saying that they're on staff with the company. They're the what's in it for me people, right?
Yeah.
So
Stepping stone.
it's one of those deals where, yes, we want you on staff. Of course we do. We also want those that are going to be loyal, those that bring something to the table, and those that generally enjoy our product. Because if you really want to see somebody promote your product, if they don't like it, they're not going to promote it, right? The ones that really like the product will promote it, and they're going to help. They're going to push it just naturally, and they're not even going to be trying to. It's just naturally going to come out of their mouth and go, "Oh yeah, this ball that I have over here, absolutely love it. This jersey I have over here, these shoes, whatever the case is, absolutely love this thing." And they're going to just naturally do that, right? So, and that's going to be pretty well the same across the board of all companies. Is something that they're going to. That's something that they're going to look at is, do you use our product? And so that's not just swag specific. That's going to be with any company out there. They're going to want to see some sort of proof that you're using their equipment prior to your application. And then, of course, like I said, you're going to have a bowling resume that kind of shows what your skills and abilities are, that kind of thing. And then, do you have social media outlets? Which ones are they? How active are you? What are you putting on your personal social media? Are you a negative person? Are you cussing up a storm? What kind of demeanor do you have? Et cetera. Can you keep your cool? There's a reason that professional bowlers get fined every time they slip of the tongue, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's about presentation and carrying yourself in that manner. And regardless of what company it is that you're trying to get on staff with, they're all going to require that same thing. Now, obviously, some of your larger companies may be more difficult to get on with. I know some people that have been trying to get on with Brunswick or with Track, and they find it very difficult. And so, in some ways, it's going to be more about your social media presence and maybe not about your skills and abilities. You know, if you've got 30,000 followers, they're going to look at you because that's advertisement. They can they can get their product out there. Like, I'm not going to point anybody out or bash anybody in that manner. Of course, I'm not like that anyway. But I do know some people that I even follow, now they're starting to represent these companies and that kind of thing. But they already have that social media presence to help kind of get them there. Whereas somebody may have the skill and the ability, but they don't necessarily have the following.
Yeah.
So, that can
Steve
hold
put the toilet paper out on his couch.
I know. I just saw that.
All right, so we're getting up to our typical time to wrap things up type thing, but I do want to get this to go back full circle, and I want to give you a platform to continue to get more Strikes for Kelly content out there. So I'm going to give you the open door to recommend everybody using the hashtag and how to appropriately use it.
Yeah, and I meant to point that out earlier. I've just been kind of trying to avoid too much conversation about her because I'm not because I don't want it to be about her, but because I don't want it to be forced. If that makes sense, right? Yeah. So I started a hashtag called Striking for Kelly or Strikes with Kelly, if you want to use that. A lot of people use that as well. And the reason why is she was a backup bowler. She was a physically disabled backup bowler at that. And, in the short time that she was bowling, she progressed extremely well. And she was very inspirational to a lot of people across the board, whether they be physically disabled or not, or just, somebody she's small and petite. She's throwing 15-pound balls, y'all. She was throwing 15-pound balls at 95 pounds, right? So she's a little girl, and she's throwing big weight. She's throwing a big weight. But it's a way to bring the bowling community together for a common cause, for someone that you may not even know. She was our association manager. She was our team anchor. She was my bowling doubles partner. Fantastic bowler, and she was.
Why are you boxing me?
It was going to be her year to make her 300. I without a doubt. I think she would have done it. But the biggest reason why I'm trying this is to give her the send off that I think that the bowling community can provide. She was always a lot like me in that aspect of she was always supportive of other bowlers and her passion for the bowlers and the sport itself. And I would like to see the bowling community really band together and showing that we can come together for a common cause. It's something like I had mentioned earlier, there's so many people are so more individuals, right? But we're all out here fighting the same fight together. We're all out here living our lives and just sometimes just trying to make ends meet to try to get through life and stuff like that. And it's nice to see that kind of support for her and for my family as well, of course. But it's all about her. And if you wanted to do like a single strike video or a multi-strike video, whatever your heart speaks, let your heart be your guide. You can use whatever kind of music you want or anything like that, but it's one of those deals where, or all I ask is just put, and usually you can come up in the camera and say it. You can say Striking for Kelly, or if you want to put it in text somewhere in the video and put Striking for Kelly with the hashtag Striking for Kelly. That's the hashtag that I created. You can do that if you want to. If you've got kids and you've got some plastic bowling pins and a plastic ball and they want to take part, go for it, man. If you're in a wheelchair, I don't care how. If you're 90 years old or you're 9 years old, if you want to take part, I would like to see any and all, and all I ever ask from anybody else is that if you do see one of these Striking for Kelly videos, give it a like, give it a repost, and, let's send her off and with the best intentions that we can and let the bowling community speak for itself in the way that we can band together for a good solid cause. And it's something that doesn't cost anybody anything. You're already there bowling. or whether it's practicing or a tournament or whatever the case is, and it's nothing more than a few minutes to edit a video. So personally, I don't think it's asking too much, but it's just something that we can do to carry the torch is what I've been calling it. You know, she lit the torch, and I look at it kind of like the Olympics when they're running that torch. You know, they'll run it from here to here, somebody else picks it up, and then they take it, and then the next person picks it up and they take it. So it's passing the torch on that she lit, and we're passing that torch on from bowler to bowler within the community so that we can send her off on the highest note possible. Because she fought like hell every day that, you know, that she was here, and, you know, she fought all the way to the end, you know, and she gave me motivation and strength in a lot of ways that she didn't even know that she gave. You know, she was the reason I wanted to be better, because in a lot of ways I was just trying to keep up with her. You know what I mean? Because like I said, she was so consistent, and honestly, she maintained her average better than I did as well. You know, her average it didn't vary just a whole lot, but she was able to maintain her average more consistently than I could. So in a lot of ways, like I said, she really was better than me. She was able to do a lot of the scores that I could with half the balls. I've got more bowling balls than I know what to do with, but she only has like 4, and that's all she needs. She was just that good that she could do, you know, a 4-ball deal and arsenal, and that was all she needed. And she took them everywhere. It didn't matter if it was a sport shot, long, short, dry. Didn't matter. She knew how to play it, and she could do it, and she proved it. And you know, she was an inspiration to a lot of people in that aspect. So, you know, and I'm going to show you this real quick. I've got. This is, if I can get it up here, she likes sunflowers. It's kind of blurry. I can't really clean it up, but I've got a small little urn necklace, and then I've got this tattoo for her recently. So you can see it. It's because she liked sunflowers. That is her actual heart rate. And then, of course, I've got her initials and her date there. You know, so she's always with me. She'll always be with me. And she'll always be with each and every one of you out there in the bowling community, you know, cheering you guys on, because that was just the way she was. She cheered on anybody and everybody. She wanted everybody to do well just as much as I do, right? So that was very important to her, like just as much as it was to me. And I think that's why we were able to enjoy our bowling together as much as we did, was because we didn't really let it get to us too much, because you're going to have good days, you're going to have bad days, but in the end, you still got to have fun.
Yep. Right.
You know, and showing that support to other bowlers as well was extremely important to her, because if she could do it, you know, with one arm paralyzed, she's got a video where she actually explains why she bowls the way. Her tag was at Kelley, Kelley. She actually had a video that she posted that explained why she bowled the way she did. But she was able to overcome those challenges.
No, you can't have this either.
It proved a lot of inspiration to people. It gave them a lot of that sense that if she can do it, they can do it, you know, by the dedication that she had to it and the motivation that she gave herself. It radiated with other people and allowed them to have more confidence in their game as well. And she really reinforced that. So I kind of ramble. I apologize, but
no, you're good.
You know, but like I said, these are, if you can see all those bowling pins up there, there we go, right there. Those are all of our tournament pins that we've got together. They're out here in the garage because I've got to put up a shelf where I can put them up. But those are our doubles tournament wins together. We've got one league win up there. So I always keep them. You know, we made those pins ourselves because all the tournaments were very small. So they did like a checkbook. They didn't have like an actual trophy, right? So what we did was we would take a pin and we refurbished it, so we got a busted up one, and we filled it in, sanded it, painted it, and then we put our scores and the dates and everything on it. We made our own trophy.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
So, that way you've got more than just a picture and maybe a score sheet.
Yeah.
We've got something
Yeah.
we can look at to go along with the memory. So it's a really cool idea. I've got a video that we posted on making those. Because she was the painter, man. She was a damn good painter because she used to do auto fabrication and painting and stuff like that way back in the day. So
That's awesome.
she was able
But
to
yeah,
do
we're running up on it. So,
yeah, I agree.
but I will wholeheartedly say this will not be the this will not be the last time you're on our show together. We will definitely love to have you back whenever you want to be back.
I'll be glad whenever you guys are ready. Just like I said, just reach out to me. I will answer anybody and everybody's messages. I am a night shifter, so like I'll be leaving for work in like 30 minutes. So sometimes it may take me a 24-hour period to get back to people. But I will always reply. I'm also on YouTube and Facebook. All of them, everything, all of my stuff is on the same channel name, The Bearded Wonder Bowling. So you can find me on any of those social media outlets. My YouTube has been kind of slow, but that's just because here with all of the recent events, I haven't been making content. So I will be getting back into that. So kind of bear with me. But so you can find me on Facebook, YouTube, here on TikTok. I am on Clapper. I don't really use it too much, but I do have it. And I have Lemonade, but I don't really use it much either. So.
And to answer your question real quick, Johnny, I'm in Missouri. The wife is a Steelers fan.
Yeah, I'm basically just Facebook, YouTube.
Come for my Steelers, we will fucking fight.
We're already fighting.
But yeah, I know we need to get closed up here, so I just want to real quick. I just want to wish everybody the best. That I really do, and I appreciate everybody's support out there through all of the process and everything, the community and the outreach that I've seen and all the messages that I've been given, the comments, the shares, the striking for Kelly hashtag. It's blowing up bigger than I could have ever expected, and I can't thank everyone out there enough because you don't know I can't even put it into words what it really means to me because I never expected it to really go as well as it has. So it says a lot about our community and about the bowlers that are within that community to be able to band together, like I said. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, and my family thanks you. It means the world to me. And so I wish everyone the best. My lives are Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central Time every Tuesday. And then it will go into Wednesdays starting in April for Summer League, 9-pin league, just a little fun league. So always feel free to reach out to me for questions about anything and everything, or if you're just looking for someone to talk to, you've got a hard time, you just need someone to talk to, reach out to me. I'll answer.
No Squirtle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Stop!
But yeah, I can't think of a better way to close everything out. So, we will see you guys next week. Brian, I'm not sure who you have laid out for next week.
We'll talk about it tomorrow.
Yeah. I was gonna say we usually don't give it away. We usually let it have a little bit of build up before we announce who's coming on.
Stop
Hey,
it.
I like it. All right, well,
Have
I'm
this.
getting ready for work. I want once again. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a pleasure. Sorry I talked so much. I'll try to dial that back.
Oh, you're all good.
Oh, we're here.
That's been a fun
All right,
one.
so
So I wish all of you the best, and thank you for having me.
the sign off
Thank
I've
you.
come up with that I've tended to like is there'll never be a last time. So until the next time.
I like that a lot. Y'all have a great night.
Keep throwing the rock and make those videos striking for Kelly.
Yeah,
Easy, guys.
Tag me in them or just post them up, and then I'll see them. I promise, I will see them. So,
All right, guys. We'll see you.
Next time.